Hi, it's Kai and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a little book review and also going through what I've tabbed in this book. My most recent book finish has been The Comeback by Lily Chu. I really liked Lily Chu's debut novel, which was The Stand-In. She is a Asian Canadian. Let me see. She lives in Toronto, Canada. I don't know if she's specifically Canadian, but Lily Chu lives in Toronto, Canada, and loves ordering the second cheapest wine, wearing perfume all the time, and staying up far too late reading a good book. She writes romance comedies with strong Asian characters. So yeah, it's cool that she likes perfume too, especially since I'm a big perfume talker. But anyway, I wanted to give a little bit of a review because I've been toying around on TikTok with going over everything that I've like tabbed in the book, kind of giving you guys like no context or without the context completely, kind of like little snippets that I really liked. But overall, I give this book a 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I liked Lily Chu's debut novel. That one was great as well. I just really like her writing, and as I said in my TikTok review, I'm a person who normally I will not really give a book a higher rating than like a 9.5 if it's romance but doesn't have any spicy scenes or essentially smut, because like, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna put myself out there, I was reading Wattpad. Like, I started reading Wattpad at like age 12 because a lot of the books in the library at school just weren't interesting to me. They weren't on my, I guess, level. And so I went on Wattpad, looked at like some of the most well-written smut, so good that some of it has been published, and I have like a copy of a book. Anyway, usually that doesn't happen, but Lily Chu's writing, not only is it so technically precise, but I feel like she writes very complex characters in very complex situations, versus like every romance kind of being like either a really silly conflict or like something so big that you're just like, maybe they shouldn't have really been able to overcome that. Like, maybe that wasn't something, like there needs to be more talking. Something that I've seen in reviews, like usually I like to wait until after I've read a book and reviewed it myself and given it a rating to kind of, that was the smoke. I got scared seeing smoke, but I forgot I lit an incense. But I usually wait until after I've formed my own opinions, and I really like this book, and I saw a review about it that was negative, and specifically the things that I enjoyed, like the pacing and the plot and the conflict, was what that person did not enjoy. And I think that this is like, Lily Chu in general is an author that in her books you're not going to have the conflict and then it's resolved in like 2 chapters. There's going to be a little bit more of, like I said, a kind of realistic timeline as far as like the people like falling for each other and getting together. It's a little bit more of a slow burn. And so if you don't like things that are slower burn, on top of the fact that there's not really any spiciness in it, I don't think this is your lane. But I do think people like me who can relate to like a unusual situation being portrayed in somewhat of a real way, or like the way that I think it would have been portrayed in real life, regardless of how you feel about the characters and all of that. I appreciate that, because again, just some romance, I'm getting away from the romance where it's just they fall in love, they have one big conflict about something, it's usually cheating, and then they get back together and move on and all of that stuff. Yeah, I just, like I said, I like my romance to be a little bit more complex than that at this point in my life. So the backstory overall is that there is Ari. She is a lawyer in Canada, I think also in Toronto. I know there were mentions of Montreal, but she is, look at my baby, but she's a lawyer. She's trying to work her way up in a predominantly white corporate culture of a like law firm. She kind of has those parents, especially her dad, who is living vicariously through her accomplishments. And then she also has the dynamic with the older sister, Phoebe. She's the one who I think was in Montreal at one point. But she has the older sister, Phoebe, who was like the I'm gonna follow my dreams, I dropped out of school child, that, you know, you have that sibling rivalry or unwanted competition and being pitted against each other, against your parents. Like, oh, why can't you be more like your sister? Or, oh, you're starting to act like your sister if you do something disappointing, you know what I'm saying? So she is living with her best friend in an apartment, and her best friend is off on a trip, a business trip, and she comes home, Ari comes home to her roommate slash friend's cousin in her living room. And you know, that's obviously like a big thing. The roommate slash friend forgot to tell her that the cousin was going to be there, and he was there under the guise of having a really bad breakup in Seoul. I think that's how that's pronounced, Seoul, Korea. So they fall for one another, getting to know each other and all of that. And then Ari finds out that he is a K-pop superstar, and the reason that he was in Toronto was not to escape a breakup, but it was because he was running from his like K-pop life and like the fame and stuff like that. And so it takes you through them navigating how does someone who is a normal person date a K-pop superstar. It adds all of those aspects of like within K-pop, and I don't know a whole bunch about like K-pop culture and stuff like that, but I do know that there's the idea like, oh, they don't want them to like publicly be dating anyone, like the management groups and stuff. And that's kind of like what was happening in this book. They weren't supposed to be dating anyone publicly because of what it could do to the band's image. So like I said, it's them navigating all of that. And like I said, I like that the conflict in plot point is not like this big star cheating on this lowly normal person. Like, that's not what the conflict is. Semi-spoiler alert, you know what I'm saying? So I personally really enjoy that aspect, that even though the conflict, it's horrible, and there's definitely some like foreshadowing of it in the beginning that I really didn't even notice until we got to the conflict. And that's why I think that the conflict fit really well, because it wasn't necessarily something that I was expecting, but then I can go back and kind of pick up where it was, the other parts of the book was alluding to this. But yeah, overall, like I said, 10 out of 10 for me. Now getting into what I've tabbed, I relate a lot to Ari's character as someone who is a person of color in a corporate environment, trying to work their way up the ladder and basically trying to assimilate into this culture that isn't really ever going to accept me 100%, which I have since like started to divest myself of that. But kind of like at the beginning, when a new lawyer comes into the firm and she's getting like all of this fanfare, even though Ari has been working really hard, and it says the Britneys of the world might start one rung higher, but I'm with Dad in believing that performance is the ultimate differentiator. I only need to work harder. And that's something that I really thought, and again, spoiler alert, she realizes as well at the end of the book that that's not realistic. That's not how real life works. Like, not only do the Britneys and the Joshes and Chads of the world start a rung higher than everyone else, but they often are more easily, I guess, accepted into the culture, and they don't have to work as hard. It is well known, especially like Scandal, Olivia Pope and her dad, you have to work 2 times as hard to get half of the recognition, and that's realistic whether people want to believe that or not. I've brought this up with people at my own job and have had people in my face be like, oh, we don't think that's the case. And I'm just like, well, you can kind of tell by like the makeup of the people who work here, the makeup of the people who are in management. But that's something where when I read that, and that was page 4, and it just like hit me, and I was like, wow, this is literally what I've been living through basically the last year and a half or so of my life. And then also in reference to Brittany, who is the lawyer who came in, they were having a, like, I guess bar, you know, like a happy hour to celebrate her joining the firm. And specifically the person that Ari wanted to be her mentor at the firm organized it when Ari had been like trying to connect with her, trying to go out for coffee, etc., and would always get moved or canceled appointments. And so that's part that I tabbed, and that Ari stayed. She said, later I don't bother to look up from my files when I hear the rest of the group head for the bar. And that was something where I was just like, often like you try to like keep your head down and just do the work versus playing the social game. And again, you think that's going to do something, but the social game is really important. And I say this as someone who refuses to play it. I'm very just transparent. I don't believe in all of the passive aggressive and like hierarchical and all of that stuff. So I refuse to play that in the workplace, and sometimes that gets me in trouble. Anyway, the next one is again relating to work. A lot of these I tabbed were relating to work. This is talking about her hair. She like put her hair down in front of Jihoon, which is, I think I'm pronouncing that right, I hope I am, but Jihoon, which is the K-pop star that she falls in love with. She says, I pull it behind my shoulders. I need to wear it up for work, so it's become a habit. My hair contravenes one of the office's many unspoken rules. Thou shalt not stand out in thine appearance. It's one I'm already pushing by being visibly Asian, and I don't like to add to it by having my hair on display. One of the partners referred to it as my geisha look when I wore it down at a holiday party. And not only does that hit on like the very random insensitive comments that people of color in the workplace will get, but also just the fact that you have to feel as though you need to dull down your appearance and the things that you like about yourself physically in order to not threaten other people in the workplace. And you know, a lot of people, especially Black women, are very policed on their appearance in the workplace, like, oh, that skirt is too tight, when you know any other person would have worn it. I just have hips, sorry. You know, that type of thing. And then something that I really like, they were trying to write a song because Jihoon told Ari that he was a songwriter but not how big and famous he was. And something that I really liked is, he says, we're all creative, he says. Every single person is, but some have been discouraged. And I think that's really true, especially, again, I'll say in POC communities. And I know specifically like in the Black community, people want, at least my parents, like doctors, lawyers, and all that stuff. Like, I'm an accountant, and even sometimes my mom will still be like, oh, when are you going to law school? And I'm just like, I really don't want to go to law school. I don't want to be a lawyer. Whereas if I were honest with myself, I probably would have wanted to pursue something more creative, something like makeup artistry, in cosmetology, or, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I think that I would do something musical even if that had been more encouraged for me. So something that I tabbed only because it was funny, and I feel like it is something that is not a commonly held belief. I really like Spam, and I did not realize that Spam was considered like not good food until I took a econ class, and like the question was basically saying it was an inferior good versus a normal good, and I had to go up to the teacher and be like, so I eat Spam regularly, like, and she was just like, put whatever down. I'll mark that question right for everyone. So I don't know whether she felt bad for me because she figured that I was poor eating Spam or what, but I did that. But anyway, this says Alex grabbed some Spam, which Alex is someone that Ari works with on the like K-pop groups that she's assigned from her job. Anyway, Alex grabbed Spam on a stick, eyes wide with joy. Do you know how hard it is to get food with Spam at home? And they're in Korea at this point, and I was just like, I love Spam. So to have that in a book, I was just like, yeah. Let me know if you're Canadian. Is Spam not a big thing where you are? The next one is, it hits on the juxtaposition, like you're supposed to be, as a woman, you're not supposed to be smart and sexy. You're not supposed to be career driven and a beautiful woman. Like, for some reason, we can't hold this nuance. And Ari is getting to the point, I think, she's starting to realize a little bit more. I think that, yeah, like she can, that there is more to her than just being smart. Like, you don't have to be just one of those things. Anyway, she says, this is after she's gotten a little makeover. I strut with a little more swing than usual and am self-aware enough to be embarrassed even as I toss my hair. After all, lawyers aren't sex kittens. Strong, confident women aren't sex kittens. Then I pass a guy so ethereal he glows, and he does a double take. And when he does a double take, eyes wide in appreciation, I preen a little bit. I decide I can be all those things if I want. So I absolutely love that she is like realizing, like, I can be smart and ambitious and sexy and beautiful and all of these things. And like I said, that's kind of a journey that I've been on myself. And then this one was just like, if I ever date a musician, if this doesn't happen for me, then they're getting cut. So Ari had gifted him like little silver hoop earrings, and they were like backstage after a concert, and it says, he leans in, but I'm distracted again. This time it's the silver hoops in his ears. Are those? Jihoon touches one with gentle fingers. The ones you bought me. I wanted you with me on stage. Like, I melted into a puddle at that point. I was like, I want this man, you know what I'm saying? And then this is another thing where it was just like, wow, this really hit home for me, because I really like my job, and even throughout some of the issues that I've had with my job more recently, or my career as a whole, I just really felt this sentiment. She waits, and it's now or never. I can't ask this officially because I don't want to be seen stealing a client, but I want to join Lux as your part-time in-house cancel. Spoiler alert, at this time she had left her job, like the other firm, and she said, I realized by the pond that it wasn't necessarily law I hated. In fact, I enjoyed a lot of the actual work. The culture was a problem. And honestly, I feel like a lot of people in the corporate world would say that the issue with the corporate world is the culture overall. No matter like what part of it you're in, it's usually the culture that is an issue. And then there's also a part where Hannah, who is Ari's roommate, is like dealing with issues with a mom who is not taking, I guess, into consideration boundaries. And so I really liked this part. And like I said, this is why I really like Lily Chu's writing, because there's a lot of complex topics that are hit on in here in like really good ways. So this one is, Hannah doesn't move. I love you, but I need you to listen to me. I've asked you a dozen times to not talk about my love life or how I look or what I eat. I don't want you to come over uninvited. From now on, when those things happen, I'm going to leave or ask you to leave. And then it basically just goes into like, how can you say this to your own mother? And she's saying, I'm saying it because I love you and I want to keep seeing you. If you don't respect me, we can't do that. And that was one of the first things that I learned in therapy when I started with the therapist I was seeing like 2 years ago. We went through the boundaries workbook, and what we learned is like you put up boundaries with people that you want to keep in your life. If you give them a boundary and they reject it, then honestly they're saying like they're rejecting wanting to be in your life or being respectful and considerate enough to be in your life. And a lot of people think that boundaries are meant to like restrict behavior or punish someone and all of those things, and it's not. At least it shouldn't be. People who are using them correctly, it shouldn't be, but it definitely should be something that you know, it's something that you do. You only, like I said, only give boundaries to people that you want to keep in your life. Otherwise you would just cut them out. And then the last thing that I have tabbed is something that, especially with me having OCD, has been an issue. And it's like every time I feel like I'm going to be happy or something good is happening or my life is on track, something terrible happens. Like last year I paid off all of my debt that I had, or credit card debt rather, from like grad school and stuff. And I had that. I was using my credit card just like you know, use it for groceries, pay it right off. And then my cat got sick, and it was something that like cat insurance wouldn't have covered or anything like that. She got FIP, feline infectious peritonitis. I can definitely do a video about that just because the experience was pretty intensive. And I think if anyone else is potentially having these issues with their cats, especially since it's basically like a process of elimination type of diagnosis, then that might be helpful to kind of see the signs. But anyway, I had done that, and like the treatment that she was on, it was like I think $4 to $6 a pill for like 4 or 5 months. It was a lot, and we made it through. But then I have like all of this debt again, that I'm paying off slowly but surely, but it's just like kind of feeling like, oh, everything, like there was one point at which I had paid off all of my credit card debt, and then I popped a tire literally that same day. And it's just like, why can't I just have like the good happen? And this is kind of relating to that. It says, hey, Hannah's voice is quiet. You know there's no limit to happiness, right? Like no happiness police that will take everything away if things are going too well. And that's almost how it feels like even I've talked about, which is kind of what led to an OCD diagnosis for me, or pointing me in that direction, is I talked about how when I like someone or want to go on a date or am interested in someone, I feel as though if I say it out loud that everything goes to poo-poo, and that if I say that I want something, like I have to act like I don't want something in order to get it, and that's not a fun way to live life. And I'm realizing that like I don't have to do that, but it's really difficult to think that way. Anyway, that is everything that I tabbed in like my review of this book. I would definitely recommend you read it. I think it's an amazing, fantastic, super book. But I will talk to you guys in the next one because I actually have to go to work. So bye, you guys.